Welcome back, brothers and sisters. Today, we're gonna go over my branded decklist. So, I tried a different approach of branded. I tried the one that, the standard version with Quem, Aluber, well, like just Mono Saronir, Mono Lobelion. But I realized how strong are the bestials. So, I built a version that just relies on bestials and has some synchro plays. Now, that would be very strange for you guys because the way I built that decklist, this decklist, is to capitalize on the synchro strategy if I get stopped from performing any possible shenanigans with fusions. And we're gonna go over also the conflictualism of this deck. It's a deck that requires, in my opinion, a lot of skill and requires you to know what you are doing, and you should be like, you can only play this deck, in my opinion, if you are very comfortable with the standard version and you know what you are doing. Like, that's very important because this is not a deck list that you will see every day. It's a deck list that might actually let you guys think Nash is overcooking. But let's go over the topic, to be honest. Let's go over it. So, now,
we can cook it if we try. Just a goo and us. Just a goo and us. Just a goo and us. Building decklist every night. Just a goo and us. We see the line.
let's go over the decklist. When we try to build a synchro strategy, the most valuable cards are Quem and Bestials. Why Quem and Bestials? Because Quem plus the Bestials will give you a synchro strategy. How so? Because Quem can send a Mercurier. You can banish the Mercurier with Magnamuth, with Saronir, with Druids. You can discard Lubelin to add any of those. And then the Quem will give you an additional card in your hand. You're gonna have a level 6 and a level 4. And you can perform a synchro summon, which is mostly gonna be this pattern as your first synchro summon. If you do that. So Quem is the most important part if you increase the numbers of bestials and you play the maximum amount. That's why you're gonna see 3 Quem. Double Cartesia, you can cheat this easily out using Quem. And 1 Aluber and 1 Tragedy. Now, in this version, as I told you guys, it's very, very strange. It's not something that you're gonna see every day. And Aluber resulted to be the worst card in my deck because I don't play Branded Lost. By not playing Branded Lost, as you can see, there are different conflictualism. Like, it's actually very strange on how this deck list plays and the way it performs its turn. So Aluber resulted to be the worst card in my decklist, but I still needed it for some lines, and the Mono Tragedy is for recovery most likely. Or to chain block my Lubellion. We maximized on Bestials. We still play 3 Albads because I think this card is crazy. 3 Branded Fusion, 3 Deployment, 3 Opening. Now, Opening and Deployment locks you into Fusion. So that's why you will have to pay a lot of attention on when you play this deck and how to play it. For most likely, the going first turn is gonna be Fusion plays, and then from the turn 3 going on, you're gonna have Synchro plays. So how do we set up the Synchro plays for the turn 3? We do set up the Synchro plays for the turn 3 by sending with Mirror Jade. We're gonna send Ash Dragon, and this is gonna give us a Quem. There is also another card that locks you into Fusion, and I discovered it actually very recently because I never paid attention to the text. Lubellion, actually. When you go for Lubellion, it locks you into Fusion, which is kinda strange for the rest of the turn. So, over the main deck, we maximized on Bestial. We still play 3 Albads, 3 Branded Fusion, 3 Deployment, 3 Opening, 3 Dark Ruler, 1 Feather Duster, 1 Branded in White. This card is needed if you go for Synchro plays because this card doesn't lock you, and you can easily search it. 1 Ice Spirits, 1 Kit, 1 Red, 1 Regained, 1 Etude. We do play this card in order to perform Synchro Summons in our opponent turn. 1 Brand Beast and 1 Retribution. So this is for the main deck. Let's go over the extra deck, because here is the most spicy part about the deck. So double Albion, double Mirror Jade, 1 Lubellion, 1 Titanica. This card is needed to cheat out the Quem. Sprint is needed for kit. You don't really have to play it. You can play the second Grand Guignol, which is probably more needed than that. 1 Rindbroom, 1 Albion, the Sanctified Dragon that comes up only against evenly most of the time. 1 Borreload Fusion. I think this card is amazing. I think people are sleeping on this card. It can be this card, or can be this card, or can be Predaplant Stapelia. You can play both actually if you cut the Sprint. In my opinion, it's valuable both ways. Like in my opinion, the Sprint is not mandatory if we have to talk about mandatory slots. It's a nice card for me. It might not be good for you. I don't really mind if you cut this card for something else. But in my opinion, you should play the Borreload Fusion. Also because this version does not play Chimera. And we don't play Chimera, we don't play Ad Libitum. So as you can see, it's very strange. 1 Grand Guignol, you probably need the second one. I do play around it a lot. Because at the start I was playing double Grand Guignol. But I usually banish it and I recycle it with Regained. So it's very weird the way that you have to play in order to establish the second Grand Guignol. You probably are gonna need it if you're not comfortable with the deck. Lulu Wailit, it's a nice card in my opinion for this deck especially, because you're gonna have a lot of level 8, and with level 4 you can like easily synchro summon into this card, and also you can special summon it off Grand Guignol. Like, in my opinion, this card is needed. The card that actually less needed might be actually Chaos Angel. Chaos Angel is not a card that really comes up most of the time. It's just gonna sit in your extra deck. I'm trying this, so like it's not like it's mostly gonna come up going second, because your opponent will never expect it. So Chaos Angel and Sprint are not really fitted for the deck, in my opinion. Like those are not mandatory. Like you can play probably something else instead of those two. Mandatory Baron, mandatory Dispater in the Synchro version. For the side deck, we got 3 that can be only 1. I mean, it's a floodgate, you need that when you go first sometimes. I think it's very good in this deck, so why not playing it? Triple Evilly match, 1 Daruma. We play a board breaker approach, so that's why there is an Evilly match. Daruma Cannon, duplication for Trust. If you get Ash on your Brand Fusion, so you still have plays in the opponent turn if they Ash the Brand Fusion. 1 Herald of the Abyss, 1 Dark Ore for Ibli, and then double Lightning Storm for back row. And a mention, like an honorable mention, is gonna go to Salesman. I don't think this card can be tested more. I don't think this card might be needed in some scenarios. Like you can call a Nominee Negation on the board to negate it, or you can call Ash if you're scared of Ash. I do think this card might actually... I wanna test this card in my opinion. I will try it probably over the Daruma Cannon or over the Dark Hole. And I'll see how it goes. For the extra deck, as I told you guys, like the Chaos Angel is not mandatory, and the Sprint is also not mandatory. You can probably check some other options. You can play the second Grand Guignol, that in my opinion might come up more than the Chaos Angel. Even though the Chaos Angel is nice in some scenarios, because you can always use the Fallen of Albads and a Bestial on the board with a Toad in order to synchro into it, and like banish randomly. So that's why, in my opinion, it's needed. So this is for my deck list. It's not like... It's super strange. You will have to... Like, you will have to try it out, because the way this deck plays is definitely interesting and different from any other branded deck list that you saw. Requires a lot of technical plays in order to stop an unbreakable board. What I usually do with this deck is just spamming a lot of monsters in defense and having a lot of recovery. And even if my opponent tries to back the board, it will never like deal with everything. Like usually on the grind, this deck doesn't have any issues. The Brandel Lost, not having Brandel Lost might seem very weird, but this deck list just established like Branded Beaster Regained, and those cards in my opinion are amazing. Regained in my opinion is probably the best recovery card after Kashira Birth. Like in my opinion, this card only after Kashira Birth is the best recovery card. So this version especially, it's very weird. I know, like it looks strange at the first look, but try to mess this up for a little bit and try to set up some different boards. You will like it, in my opinion. Like it's just another version of a branded, because I didn't want to lose to Floodgates, and I was trying other ways. And this one came up to be possibly the best way, because the Bestials plays very good into Floodgates, and Bestials plays very good into every card that would kill this deck, like Barrier. Try this out, and let me know in the comment section below what you think about this decklist.